Hi, my name is Juhan, and my group chose to analyze the signature style of a director, Christopher Nolan. The following index includes a short introduction of Christopher Nolan and style in his directing, and cliche, fashion, sounds, lighting, and camera movement. And I'll give analysis of the first two styles as just mentioned, which are style in directing and cliche. Nolan was born in London in 1970, and his life is full of filmmaking since childhood. He started making movies at the age of 7 and decided to become a professional filmmaker when he was 11 years old. Also, at the age of 19, before he even went to college, he had already made two films, all of which were screened at the Cambridge Film Festival and Public Broadcasting Service in US. And Nolan later majored in English literature at the University of London and served as president of the university's filmmaking club. After graduation, he's living a life of super special success with his films such as Memento, Batman series, and Inception, Interstellar, like proving that he was born to be a successful movie director. And Stalin directing to the next. And Nolan basically prefers a production method based on realism. So he tends to refrain from using CGs as much as possible. To enhance his realism, Nolan often uses unusual methods, and let me give you some examples in the movies. First of all, in the Dark Knight trilogy, smashing the Lamborghini and flipping a large trailer up and down using wire were all real. And a very famous scene of Batman, Dark Knight, which the scene of Joker walking away as a hospital collapsing down, Nolan actually bought an abandoned factory and blew it up after decorating it to a hospital. Lastly, the airplane scene in the early part of Dark Knight Rises had real stuntmen tying strings and skydiving. Next, in the movie Inception, there is a scene in which a dream collapses and objects burst out. It is actually filmed by blowing those objects using compressed air. In addition, for the fight scene where the whole space rotates, a rotating hotel hallway scene, the set was made according to Nolan's order only for this scene. And lastly, the next movie, the enormous size of a cornfield that shows up in the movie Interstellar, Nolan purchased that cornfield and cultivated it for 3 years only for the movie. And the huge sandstorm scene, this one, that appeared with the cornfield was actually made by paper, grinding corrugated cardboard. Very fascinating, right? And Cillian Murphy, who starred in the film Batman Beginning as a scarecrow, adds that although it was a 150 million capital scaled film, the filming was shot in a low budget indie film atmosphere. Nolan directed the actor by looking at the actor rather than looking at the monitor. In addition, it is also a characteristic of Nolan that the film is thoroughly shot in accordance with the script, which means no ad-libs. All the works except for the film Insomnia were produced by Nolan all himself, so there's only a little difference between the original script and the completed film. And the actors' ad-libs are quite restricted. The only exception to this principle was Heath Ledger, the Joker in Dark Knight. Nolan didn't edit Heath Ledger's ad-lib, and it's the scene that Joker clapping in a jail. And when you look at the elements of screenplay and production in Nolan's work, time serves as a very important motif. Memento is a movie dealing with a deletion of past time with the subject of amnesia. Prestige, which applied the reverse sequence composition method. Batman Begins depicts the past of a person trapped in a trauma of a bad memory. Dark Knight, which the Batman has to intervene in two events happening simultaneously. Inception, which dramatically slows down the time in dreams, and from Interstellar, distortion of time appears as a significant material based on the theory of relativity, Dunkirk expresses the determination of life and death in a moment by cross-editing three events occurring at the same time. So the elements of time has a significant impact on Christopher Nolan's production. Therefore, it is characterized by the preference of for configurations that do not follow the time sequence. His films following Memento, Prestige, and Batman Begins are not in chronological order. And The Dark Knight, which runs in a chronological order, also has cross-edited parts. So some audiences are confused about this style of composition, but also it is his excellent ability to make the audience's curiosity double and create a vivid atmosphere by mixing those parts that would be bland if he arranged them in like time order. As his last directing feature, he has no waste of cuts. Of course, this is something that world-renowned directors have in common, but Nolan also uses cuts with moderation. So in other words, he only uses the necessary scenes in the scene. He doesn't use any cinematic techniques such as like flamboyant camera moving or tracking zoom out, optical techniques, and this may lead to problems in editing because the editors find empty cuts or scenes. And next, style in directing cliche. Nolan's style of character production is not diverse. Whenever he makes a movie, he focuses only on the main character and the story structure. So characters other than the main character tends to be used as just a tool for supporting the protagonist. In other words, rather than dealing with each character as a single person who has a single personality, Nolan treats it like a chess piece for the story. Female characters who are lovers of main characters are generally described as main character's goal, idea, or trauma, and are rarely actively stand up as an independent character. So these women appear in the movies like Memento, Prestige, Dark Knight, and Inception are all sweet and friendly, commit suicide, or killed because of the male protagonist. However, not all female characters are passive or ancillary, but in addition, if the male protagonist is a child, and the child may be drawn as a caring object at the end. Inception, Prestige, and Interstellar are examples of them. And for other cliches, the male protagonist who lost his wife in the past, the male protagonist's wife has already died. I had Memento, Prestige, Inception, Interstellar, and Love for Children motivates case resolution. And Cobb from Inception and the Interstellar Cooper. The main characters don't want to leave, but they have to leave behind their children. The examples are there. And Snow-Covered Mountains has appeared in 4 movies of Christopher Nolan. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashwin, and today I'm going to be talking about the visuals of Christopher Nolan, based off one of, if not his most famous movie, The Dark Knight. So, the visuals in The Dark Knight is absolutely incredible. It's probably one of the biggest points of the movie as to why it's so successful. And so we'll dive straight into it. The first thing that we should talk about, I think, is the lighting. So obviously, the lighting is very different from most movies because you have two main, I guess, forms of lighting that we see in movies in general, which is high key lighting and low key lighting. Usually we see high key lighting, especially in superhero movies. But the thing is, this movie is different because it's not just a superhero movie; it's also a crime movie. So this is probably why we divert away from it a little bit and we see low-key lighting. Loki lighting, it's very hard to pull off an entire movie, or a movie where Loki lighting is sort of more prominent, I guess, compared to high key lighting. So first we'll talk about what high key lighting is and Loki lighting. So Loki lighting is lighting that is used to, I guess, to enhance shadows in the movie, and high key lighting is the complete opposite. It is to eliminate shadows. So again, it's very different because lighting, you need lighting to be able to see the characters and to understand each scene properly. So this again, it is very difficult to pull it off, but Christopher Nolan, I think he did it perfectly. I think one of the biggest impact of Loki lighting is probably the time of day, because we see a lot of important scenes in the movie take place at night. So night is the main time of day of choice, I guess. For example, at the end of the movie, when we see Two-Face threaten Gordon's family, in that scene, obviously it takes place at night, and Loki lighting is very, very, you can see the impact it makes, because a lot of the lighting doesn't come from, I guess, not artificial lighting behind the camera. It's more the lighting that is used in the scene itself, so like street lights and stuff like that. That is what is used to light up the characters and the scene. Another good example of Loki lighting would be in the interrogation room. The first part of the interrogation room, when we first see the Joker and Gordon walks in as well, we see sort of the lighting. There's very little, it's very subtle, I guess, the lighting. You only see it light up about 3/4 of the Joker's face and Gordon's face as well. The rest of it is just pitch black. You cannot see, I guess, anything else. And what this does is it helps you really understand the sinister nature of the Joker, because this is a very dark movie, as you mentioned. It's not the Joker is a very, I guess, his character is a character with no fear. He kills a lot of people. He has a lot of, I guess, he doesn't have a lot of respect, or he doesn't value life as much as anyone else. And this scene, where you could pause the image and you see the Joker, will tell pretty much the story or the characteristics of Joker, of what we see him in this movie. And again, this is what is a pure masterpiece, I think, by Christopher Nolan, and how he uses this lighting to his effect. So again, Loki lighting is used in other situations. So for example, when we see the city of Gotham being showcased, again, a lot of the lighting comes from street lights and moonlight. Again, it just it shows the dark nature of the movie, and how how, I guess, it sets the tone really of how you're not really going to get, I guess, a happy movie, or even a happy ending, because there really isn't much of a happy ending at the movie. And it just, again, it's a very depressing movie, but it's done very well. And again, it's really good. I think, again, it suits Batman's character as well, because he's a character that hides in the shadows a lot. He's you can't spot him, and I guess the use of this dark, of Loki lighting helps him blend into his environment, and again, it really suits the Batman character. Now we'll move into camera movement. So this is very interesting, because very rare do we see, in fact, almost directors do not use camera movement, or camera movement does not make as much of an impact as it would in, I guess, in this movie or Christopher Nolan movie. So the first thing that we look at is the dynamic camera movement. Dynamic camera movement is when the camera, it moves a lot during a scene, and we see this in the movie during conflict. So there was a scene when Harvey, Gordon, and Bruce, they were on top of a rooftop, and they were having an argument. They were blaming each other, and again, there was a lot of conflict in that scene, and the camera, it just moved around in a circle around the characters, and this helped you, I guess, sort of understand what's going on in their head, because their emotions are all over the place. They are blaming each other. They're not really sure. They don't understand the situations themselves, and I guess where they feel is not it's not concrete. And this helps the audience understand how they are feeling and what is going through their head at that point in time. uh, another example that we can use of dynamic movement, dynamic camera movement, is in a scene when the Joker has a knife to Rachel's head. Again, Rachel, her thoughts are absolutely all over the place. Again, there's conflict because the Joker wants to know where Batman is, but obviously Rachel, who knows where Batman is not going to give in. But again, her emotions are all over the place. She doesn't know how to feel because she knows she could potentially die at this moment. She knows that, or that she could get really injured. She doesn't know what's going on, and this helps the character feel the unease that I guess Rachel feels. And again, it's a really good use of camera movement from Christopher Nolan. Next is static camera movement. So this is used in regular conversations. So, for example, when two characters are just, they're just talking to each other, the character, with typical conversation, nothing much. Again, it's static because obviously each character knows what they're gonna say. They know what they want. There isn't much of a need, I guess, to have the camera move around as much. It helps the audience understands that this scene is a scene where nothing much is going on, and that they can feel relaxed, just like how the characters are feeling as well. Next, we'll talk about push-ins. So push-ins is when the camera slowly moves from not necessarily a wide angle, but from a wider shot to a close-up of the characters. And the way that these push-ins are used is they're used to during the development of a conversation. So when two characters are talking, so for example Batman and Batman and Harvey, they are talking, and Batman wants to know if he can trust Harvey. And as they keep talking, as the conversation develops, the camera moves closer to each character, and it stops at a point where it's a complete close-up, pretty much. And at that point when it stops is when the conclusion of the conversation, when we get to the conclusion, and Bruce knows that he can trust Harvey. It's a very interesting use of push-ins. So from this camera movement, we can see the impact and how the movement of cameras can actually influence the audience members. Usually in older movies, the camera movement it's just there to showcase the characters. It's just very static, but it doesn't have as much of a meaning as it does. And it helps support the conversations that each character has as well, and brings in a lot of depth to the movie, and is probably part of the reason why this movie is so successful. And again, this is very unique to Christopher Nolan, and again, it's absolutely brilliant, I think. So now we'll move to costume and makeup. So for costume and makeup, I think we will just talk about the two main characters of the movie, which is Batman and the Joker, because other characters, they have very generic costumes. Mainly what they wear, the makeup is very it's very bland, and there's not much detail to talk about. But however, the two main characters, is the hero and the villain, I guess you can say, Batman and Joker, there is a lot of density in that. So first we'll talk about Batman and his suit. So Batman's suit it's just pure black. Not just his suit, but his gadgets, everything. As we talked about the lighting, the low-key lighting, this helps him blend into his environment, to camouflage in with the shadows. And as I said, Batman is a character that you're not really supposed to see until he sees you. He is, and the suit, I guess, it suits that character. it suits him and what he knows and what he needs to achieve. Again, I think it's really great. And the thing is, they haven't diverted too much away from the original Batman in the comics that everyone knows. And Christopher Nolan has placed the suits and the makeup that is used for Batman in a really good, advantageous position that where it works almost seamlessly with the lighting and other, and camera movement, because you need good camera. Like there's certain scenes in the movie where you see like Batman, when you see him like jumping off buildings and stuff, there's only a certain angle where you would be able to see Batman because of the use of low-key lighting. And again, those angles, again, it suits the movie really well, and it suits the Batman character well. Yeah, again, it's really great. Then now we'll talk now. On the other hand, Bruce Wayne wears formal clothing. He doesn't wear. He's complete, like, he's not very flashy like a lot of other superheroes and their alter ego. It's very, but the interesting thing is it's very different as well from Batman. The way that he talks as well, the character of Bruce Wayne, the way that he looks, the way that he dresses up, he's a very formal, fancy character compared to Batman, who's a character again that you see in the shadows, that does a lot of dirty work. And this is a very good example of an alter ego, because they're the same person but they're two different characters. And Christopher Nolan does this perfectly, because you can really tell the difference between each characters, but you know that they're the same person and their personality is still somewhat the same. Again, it's like it's perfect from Christopher Nolan, because it is something like this is very difficult to pull off, especially when you see with modern Batman movies how difficult it is to pull off Bruce Wayne and Batman, to tell the difference between both. It's either they're very different but you don't feel they're the same person, or you're just they just completely merge and you can't tell the difference. Now we'll talk about the Joker. So the Joker, he doesn't have an alter ego. We just know him mainly as the Joker in this movie. But what's interesting with the Joker is that the way that his makeup is portrayed in the movie suits him as a character, because he's a character that the way that he looks, it just shows how that he dresses very scruffy and dirty. He's not a character that has a lot of self-care, but the reason for that is because in the movie, even he mentions it when he's when he's getting punched around by Batman, that he is a character with nothing to lose. There's scenes in the movie, they can't find fingerprints on him, they don't know completely who he is, and you see that as someone, he doesn't care what happens to him. Well, the only reason why that he wears what he wears is mainly, I guess, just to scare people and to show off his sinister nature, and to also, I guess, protect his identity, I guess, what he really looks like. Again, it's the makeup is brilliant. The way the Joker is portrayed in this movie is very impressive when you compare to other villains, especially in other DC movies, because the way there's usually flaws that you can pick out in other characters, but here the way that he looks, the way that he dresses, the way that he acts it shows a man who is focused on his main goal, which is to try and to, I guess, expose Batman. He's not someone that just wants money or anything. His main focus is just to expose Batman, and he's willing to put his life at risk because he has nothing to lose. And the way that you look at him, from one look, you understand that is the character that he is. And again, it's really good. And now, another important thing about the Joker is, and his outfit and his makeup, is that it's quite different from the comics that a lot of fans know Joker as. here, as I said, he looks very dirty and scruffy. He looks like a very messed up character compared to what he looks like in the comics, when his makeup is a little bit more well done there. His suit is put in a bit better, I guess. But you understand the difference between the character of Joker, but you know that it is him. From one look, you can still tell that it's the Joker. It's not like you're looking at a completely different character. There are movies where, in superhero movies especially, where the characters they've tried to change the characters from the comic and they've become completely unrecognizable. But here, it's done seamlessly, and it looks, the Joker is done perfectly, in my opinion. So that's my take on the visuals and how it is operated by Christopher Nolan, based off The Dark Knight. And yeah, thank you.